Welcome to the lighter side of the spectrum, the podcast that celebrates the multiple hats we wear and the juggling acts we perform in life. Whether you're parenting kids and teens on the autism spectrum, navigating the ever-evolving healthcare industry, or building a more inclusive and impactful world, this is your space to find connection, inspiration, and growth. Together, we'll share stories, tackle challenges, and explore how innovation and inclusion create better outcomes for everyone. Because no matter the spectrum, there's always a lighter side. Now here's your host, David Kaufer.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Lighter Side of the Spectrum. I'm David Kaufer. Today we're talking about something I think deserves far more attention than it gets. When most people think about autism, they think about communication differences, sensory challenges, repetitive behaviors, or social interaction. But what they don't think about usually is trauma. Not because trauma is necessarily a part of autism itself, but because so many autistic children and adults experience repeated events that leave lasting emotional wounds. School struggles, bullying, hospitalizations, family disruption, being misunderstood, not being able to communicate, living in a world that often wasn't designed with them in mind. Those experiences change people, and today's guest understands that reality as well as anyone. Stephen Laine is a father, autism advocate, and writer whose honest Facebook posts have resonated with thousands of families, including my own. Over the past several months, his family has faced every parent's nightmare, including psychiatric hospitalization, repeated elopement, navigating a system that often seems unprepared to help. But through it all, Stephen has continued to share something that's incredibly rare. Not polished success stories, but real life. The actual fear, the exhaustion, and the hope, and ultimately what healing can look like. Stephen, welcome to the lighter side of the spectrum.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you here. I'm glad that our paths have crossed. Like I said, one of the things that struck me is just your raw honesty in terms of approaching this. You don't always see this in our space in terms of other parents who post on Facebook and other platforms. One of the things you wrote that really grabbed my attention was this. You said, I didn't choose advocacy. Advocacy chose me.
Yeah.
So I think every parent probably listening to this right now understands exactly what you meant, but I'd like you to talk about what it means to you and tell us about your journey.
Well, okay. So I will kind of go back in time a little bit here. So
Yeah, please.
So we're going to go back to the start of when I went into the autism world, as you could say, and that was in 2011. I was living in Oxford, Michigan, and for those of your listeners who don't know where Oxford is, that's about 40 miles north of Detroit.
Okay.
It's a semi-rural area. So anyways, we're noticing my wife at the time, we were both noticing, I'm divorced right now, and I'll get into that later.
Yeah,
but
I definitely want to get into that. I know that's a big part of your story too.
It is part of my story too, but I'll get into that later. So anyways, in 2011, a lot of people were going to me and my wife at the time. They were noticing certain things with Matthew, like he wasn't hitting certain milestones. He wasn't walking at the appropriate age. He wasn't communicating at all. He was just communicating with hums, as I would like to say.
Mm-hmm.
And he was about 3.5 to 4 years old at the time.
Okay.
And so, everyone thinks, there's something going on with him. Is it hearing impairment? Is it something else? So one of the first things I do, I get his hearing tested.
Right,
came back. Yep. He came back normal. So it wasn't that. So then I enrolled him in the preschool through our school district, and they're thinking autism. And I'm disagreeing with them.
Okay. So I was going to say, were you thinking autism at all?
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I wasn't. And so I'm disagreeing with them. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to go find some doctors and I'm going to see if I can get him, see what they say. Well, I got two different opinions, and it was the same thing, autism.
Mm.
And so I'm like, well, this is a done deal. And I still wasn't able to come to terms with it at that
Sure.
point. Now, I got a younger son by name Aiden. At the time, he was 2.5.
Okay.
And I rolled him into preschool. And I remember taking him to preschool first day, and he's not communicating with any of the peers there. He's just stacking blocks upon blocks upon blocks, perfect alignment, and humming to the blocks. Now, at this point, I already did a little bit of homework and knew what the signs are for autism at this point.
Sure. Right.
And I'm like, oh, here we go again. So I knew
Wow.
he was going to get diagnosed. And so I got him diagnosed, at the same time, went through the same process, went to a natural doctor, got him diagnosed. So he was diagnosed. So, and at the time, once Aiden's diagnosis came through, I started looking at ABA services. Well, at the time in Michigan, ABA wasn't covered under insurance. So, and there wasn't all these ABA centers around like there is today. So I inquired about it, and they said, well, it's going to cost you about 30 grand a year out of pocket.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
And like I said at the time, insurances in Michigan didn't cover it.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, this is beyond my means. I don't have 30 grand.
30 grand sitting around
just to fork over for 1 year of ABA services. So I took what I could get as far as therapies, what I could find, at the time. And so we did that for quite a few years. And then probably fast forward to 2019, my wife and I were having a lot of serious issues at that point, and we got divorced. Eventually got divorced. I'll get into that, but we separated. In September of 2019, the boys switched schools from Oxford to where they're presently at right now.
Okay.
And so I'm not like near Oxford or anything. I'm more closer. I'm in like suburban Detroit right now. So that was a big transition for the boys. And they were really traumatized from it because, again, they're autistic and they don't only understand certain concepts. Many children don't understand the concept of divorce, but when you put that on an autistic child, the trauma is going to be there. And that's kind of goes to it, like I was saying in a lot of my posts, where autism care and trauma do go hand in hand. They were wondering why we weren't together anymore. They were wondering why we had two separate homes, which it was like at the time. We were in two separate homes. They were living in one home part of the time. They were living at at their mother's place.
So I just want a quick question here,
Sure.
Steve, and that is, so it sounds like both boys, again, they were diagnosed, but it sounds like they were able to gain some functionality to communicate, like, so they've been able to speak to certain, would you say they have limited vocabulary or, communication skills, or, because it sounds like, again, that you said they were confused about the living situation, which is understandable.
Yeah. I'm sorry, fast forward to that, but
no, it's okay.
But back to when they were in elementary school, I want to say by the time they hit kindergarten, they were starting to get somewhat verbal. Now, my youngest son, Aiden, was more verbal at a younger age than Matthew was. Matthew did start becoming verbal till about 5 years old. So that's probably around the time he started saying his first words. Eventually, we were able to get into very basic conversations with both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So
please continue. So that's the background. So again, in 2019, it's got to be so hard. I mean, again, relationships are challenging. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation I can have with so many people talking about balancing and managing marriages, relationships when you're dealing with one, let alone two autistic kids. So you guys, going through these challenges, and you're trying to manage the trauma of changing school districts.
Yeah, so we went through that. So that's in September 2019. And my youngest son, Aiden, was having meltdowns at school just because he was unable to cope with the changes at the time. He wanted to go back to his old school, didn't want to go to where he was presently going. Matthew was also still having some issues. He wasn't having any meltdowns, but he was acting very hyper in the classroom, and he wasn't even focusing. So let's fast forward to 3 months later. Yeah, probably maybe not 3 months, maybe more like 4 to 5 months later, COVID happens.
Right. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
because we're going from 2019, obviously, into early 2020. Yeah, COVID hits.
Yep.
Good times.
Yep. COVID hits. So we're all in lockdown. We can't go in there. Kids can't go to school. They're going to Zoom. They're going to school over Zoom.
Yep.
And, they're wondering what's going on here. And so I ended up getting in touch with a therapist for both my boys because all the stuff they've been through at that point. Well, again, during the lockdown sessions, they're over Zoom.
Yeah.
You try to do therapy with an autistic child over Zoom. For some, it might work. I don't think it really worked for my boys, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a challenge for sure.
It is. It was. And so eventually, lockdowns, we eased back into the public school setting once things are opening up. My youngest son, both my sons at this point were going in middle school. And so I actually, which was really fortunate because by this point, COVID happened. They had a break from everything, from being on lockdown, which is ironic as it sounds. I was actually kind of grateful for that, with everything they've been through.
Right.
So,
it kind of paused everything in a way.
Exactly. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
And so once they were able to go back to, a natural school setting, they started thriving, both of them.
Oh,
and they were both in middle school at that point. So let's fast forward a little bit. So now we're back in the school setting. So 2021 hits. And so at that point, and which I'm going to get in a little bit of detail, but I can't go fully detail because it's kind of a little too personal.
Yeah, understood.
But I ended up taking over for both my boys to where they were here with me full time, 24/7. And this happened in October of 2021. Again, this was another transition. They want to know why they were, no longer living with their mother. They wanted to know what happened. They lost all their stuff, all their belongings. So I had to replace everything that they owned, that they had at her house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and this was very traumatic for them. And, there was some regression when they were in school with both boys. But I want to say after probably about 3 to 6 months, we did get through that. And, they were able to move on successfully. And so,
but every day this is something that you still had to manage. I mean, it's kind of funny. You kind of gloss over it like, 3 to 6 months, they kind of got over it. But in the meantime, you're still trying to manage their lives and doing this on your own. I mean, you're essentially a single dad, I assume, working full time and dealing with them.
I do, but I also get a lot of help from my mother.
Okay.
And she helps me out with the boys. So when I'm at work,
thank
she's
goodness.
watching them.
Yeah, that's great to have that support. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because there'd be no way I could work full time without her help. There'd be no way.
Right. Exactly. I think that's one of the things, most people listening can relate to all too well. I mean, we need that support.
Mm-hmm.
Happy. My son Stone likes to pop in every so often, so he just gave us one of his happies.
Cute. So anyway, and I think that's kind of what led me to this pathway of advocacy, because I know it's all on me. It's all on me. And, if I don't do my part to make my children's lives better, then who will?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's on us. I mean, you're the guy, you're the man in that situation. So what did advocacy look like early on for you? And, was it, tell me about that.
Well, early on, it was, kind of more or less like, I want to say like early on, I don't want to say it probably started where I really got involved with it is when I became a full-time parent, where I was just taking the boys on my own. That's
Mm-hmm.
when I said, I got to really step it up here, and not that I wasn't, but at that point, it was like, okay, we got to take things to the next level here.
Yeah. Like something, it sounds like something kind of clicked in the
Yeah.
way that like, you're like, oh boy, like you said, I've got to take this to a new level.
Yeah. And, there's been times, where, I had to, like for certain things, in their school, for services and things I thought they would thrive in for both Matthew and Aiden. Unfortunately, as I have had to do that a whole lot because I got a really good relationship with their schools. So, but there's been times I've had to, say, hey, this method might not be working. Let's try this, and sometimes you got to get administration involved. I had to do that a few times. So, that's where I've had to do some of the advocacy work. For me, it's been more like, I think probably where I'm strongest in, I'm not trying to give myself an ego boost here, is I think it's in my writing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
that's where,
I'll concur with
yeah,
that, Steve.
yeah, yeah. And so, I've been actually been writing on Facebook a lot since 2012. Actually, 2012 is when I started writing.
Oh,
But
okay. Wow.
yeah, but I really kind of stepped it up in the last couple of months. Once Aiden, once Matthew was hospitalized, which we'll get
Mm-hmm.
into. That's when I'm like, let's take up another notch here. That was kind of like another point for me in my life where I'm like, I'm seeing a lot of things I'm not liking. And he's 19 years old now, and a lot of the things that he once had as far as services that were there at one time are no longer there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a big transition as well, and
Hmm.
something we've talked about here in terms of when those school services go away, some of these other, all the support that's provided, what limited support in some cases there may be for
Yeah.
kids on the spectrum and parents goes away when they when they get older. I mean, it's not like these are people.
Yes,
They're people who don't go away. I mean, they still need support.
they do. They do because I mean, like my son Matthew, he's 19 years old, but mentally he's not at a typical 19-year-old level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean he's
Yeah,
much younger.
yeah. He needs. It sounds like he just has a lot of support needs. That
He
maybe
does.
other other 19-year-olds who aren't in the same situation need in terms
Yeah,
of being independent or sufficient in different ways.
yeah. Matthew needs 24/7 supervision.
Yeah.
He's very. I'm not trying to talk down on him, but I'm just mentioning the challenges that we have with him. Is
Yeah.
that
Please.
he's very impulsive. Like I could tell him no, like this morning before we went on, I'm saying, Matthew, do not go into the fridge and grab the pop. Do not go in the fridge and grab the pop. What does he do? Goes in the fridge and grabs the pop first thing in the morning. I'm like, you're not supposed to be drinking pop first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
he's a 19-year-old,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I laugh only because, again, like I said, I think there are a lot of parents that can relate to that, Steve. There's a lot of college students out there drinking Mountain Dew, but that's a good example, right?
Yeah. But it's the impulsiveness with Matthew. That's been one of his biggest challenges. And that's how we got into our crisis that
Mm.
with the hospitalization, which I did mention on Facebook quite
Yeah.
quite a
Oh,
bit.
yeah. That was a big event. Can we just talk about that? Because I think that's obviously a pivotal moment in so many ways.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it was pretty much, a life-changing experience for me. So I'll go back to 2012. When I was at work, he did elope one time,
Okay.
and he was found like 15 minutes later and returned back home. We didn't have an elopement incident since.
Oh, okay. So
So
so this was like a one and done thing as far as
yeah, it was kind of like a one and done
experience.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm at work. I get a phone call from my mom saying Matthew ran away. So I leave work. I come home and we're looking for him. We can't find him. And, at the point, I didn't have a GPS on him at that point or anything like that because I think, we haven't had this issue for so many years.
Yeah. Right.
So, anyways, we're looking for him all along my street. And one of my neighbors goes, he's in here. He's in my house. So he got himself so worked up looking for DVDs and video games that he went into someone else's house
Looking for them.
looking for him. Yeah. He's in the basement. I go in the basement, trying to get him out of there. He's a big guy now. He's like, he's about 5'9", 5'10", and he weighs about 220 pounds. And it's not that he's that overweight. He's a solid big. I mean, he can play. He's built like a football player.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like he could be a linebacker for
for
Michigan.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, I'm trying to get him out of there. I'm like 5'9", but I'm not near as big as Matthew. I can't physically get him out of there. So, anyways, we're trying to get him out of there. He's ransacking through the entire basement, just looking for DVDs and video games. I can't get over there. Then about 5 minutes later, the police show up, and there's probably about 2 or 3 of them. They're talking to me, seeing what methods we can use to get him out of the basement. And I'm gonna tell you, the police in my neighborhood are absolutely great. They were so understanding with them.
That's good to hear.
Yes, they were great, and they were really empathetic towards him. And so we did one of the police officers said, "Hey, I got a Toy Story DVD up here for you." So he runs right up the basement stairs. Yeah. And so he tries ransacking through another area of the house. And so it took me like 2 or 3 police officers to get down there. We get him out of the house. He's laying down on the front yard, and we were able to gently restrain him. And so he's not melting down or anything. And so what it is that he's doing is he's staring at the officer's tattoos and totally fascinated by them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we just, gently holding him until the EMTs show up. So EMTs show up. They take him to the hospital. I'm in the ambulance with him. He goes in the hospital. We're waiting at the ER. And I talked to the psychiatrist after waiting for about an hour and a half. They give him some meds, stabilize him. He returns home. Okay. So he's good for a week at this point. We returns home. He's fine. No issues.
Kind of back in the routine. Everything's good.
Back in the routine. Everything's good. Yeah. I mean, he's going to a life skills school, and he's doing okay there. Nothing's wrong going on. And so so then I get a phone call from his life skills school that, hey, he's trying to run. He's trying to go in different areas, and he just tried going into an Amazon truck.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah,
and so,
right.
So I go over there, pick him up from his life skills school, come back home, and I'm like, I'm doing my own methods. I'm calming him down, making sure he doesn't escalate or anything. And at this point, he seems like he's not escalated at all. Everything seems to be okay. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try and go. I tell my mom, she's going to watch him. I'm going to try and go to work. I think he's fine now. I think it was just, he doesn't seem elevated or anything. And so I go to work. Not even 5 to 10 minutes later, I get a phone call. Matthew ran away again. And so so I drive back home, and I pull into my driveway. Here's Matthew sprinting back home, carrying a bunch of DVDs. And I want to let you know where I live. It's about 5 to 6 houses away from a very busy road.
Oh, sure. And right. So yeah, it's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
So anyways, I have Matthew wear this little lanyard that says I have autism with his name on it and my phone number if he was ever to go missing. So I get a phone call from this guy. He says to me, are you Matthew Laine's dad? I'm like, yes, I am. Who is this? He's like, well, he just went into my house and he took a bunch of movies. And I'm like, oh, and in order to get, and I said, well, where do you live? And he lives on the other side of this very busy road. Oh, and Matthew doesn't do really well crossing busy intersections. So I'm thinking to myself, he could easily gotten hit by a car at this point.
Oh, sure.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the DVD. I said, so my son's elevated. He's trying to run away again. And so I'm like, I'm calling into work. I'm not going into work after this. He's just too worked up. So I take him. So after he did calm down, I brought the DVDs back. I managed to get a hold of a psychiatrist. And so I got him into the next day to see his doctor. I told her everything that's been going on. We do a new regimen of meds with him and see if that works. And at this point, I'm like, well, this is becoming a big issue now with him. I'm ordering an Angel Sense GPS on him. And so
okay,
I got overnighted. I'm like, we got to do this.
yeah. You want to be able to see where he is. And...
Yeah. Yep. So I ordered that. And so again, week goes by, it's doing okay, no issues really. And I end up taking, some time off of work just to observe him on these new meds, see how he was doing. And so third time I'm like, okay, well, third time that happened was, okay, I think he's all right. And so it was on a Sunday. I was going to go to my best friend's house on a Sunday afternoon. And my best friend, he lives right around the block from me. And we've been lifelong friends. We've known each other for almost 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's great. Great to have.
We're practically like brothers. So I go over there, and then guess what happens? I look at my phone. Matthew left my house. And so I'm like, oh my God. So so I'm following the GPS. He's crossing this very busy road over and over again. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God, he's got to get killed. He's got to get killed. And
Your heart must have been racing. I mean, at this point.
Yeah, it was. I mean, multiple times he's crossing this very busy road with a speed limit 35 miles an hour. There's traffic at all times. And I'm like, oh my God, he's got to get himself killed. I'm going to be going to his funeral. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And so I find him, thankfully I had the GPS on him. I find him in a store. And it's a store that has like video games, DVDs, toys, the whole 9 yards. And so he's got a whole thing of them. Like he's got like at least about $200 worth of merchandise in his hands. I'm like, hey Matthew, we got to put these back. He goes, no, I'm going to take them. So no, we got to put these back. And so he's just trying to ransack through the store with me in there with him. And so I called the police. I'm like, I can't, he's still elevated now. He's got to go back to the ER. And so I called the police, and I don't know what schools are like over in your area, but in our area, we're in Michigan, a lot of the schools have what we call a police resource officer. And so we have that here in Michigan, where there's a cop on the grounds of the school. And I know him. He's really a nice guy, great guy. So anyways, guess who shows up? Matthew's resource officer that he knew from high school. So
that's helpful, right?
Yeah, it was very helpful. Good. Yeah. I mean, I already knew the police in my department and where I live. They're really good with Matthew, and so
that's very.
And it was kind of funny because it's on the same police officers that showed up were at the last incident. So they kind of knew what they were dealing with. So
yeah. I mean, that's good, right? Like again, it's. I mean, everyone's kind of familiar with the situation.
Exactly. Exactly. So anyways, we get them, the police officers are, de-escalating. You're de-escalating the situation with them. So anyways, officers get in there, they, get them into the ambulance. And so I'm way at the ER, and I know like this is getting really bad at this point. So, and so we wait in the ER, and we're just waiting. And, the psychiatrist shows up, and I tell him what's going on. And I said, we're probably going to have to look at inpatient psychiatric for him. And I'm like, well, okay. And in Michigan, there isn't a whole lot of psychiatric hospitals. There really isn't. And so you're pretty much waiting until a bed opens up, and you just can't just pick whichever one you want to go to. You just got to wait until there's an opening. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to stay here at the ER for my son until there's an opening. If I got to wait here a week, I'll wait here a week, And it did come to that. The next day, we did find him a bed at a psychiatric hospital. And so they transported him over there. And they dropped him off at nighttime, and I'm coming back home, and my mind's just racing. I'm like, I felt like I just abandoned my son.
Right. That'd be so hard.
It was. So hard. It was. And so I returned, and so I'm like, this is just so much. I don't know what the future's going to happen. I don't know how they're going to rule this. I don't know if he's going to be returning back home or if he's going to be, in some kind of residential facility. I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
right. You
A
just,
million thoughts are running through my head at this point.
I'm curious, Steve, what
Yeah.
kinds of things were they telling you in terms of the psychiatric aspect, in terms of having him admitted to a psychiatric ward? Because I think that's something that, again, people would be interested in it. It's, we've talked a lot about how behaviors, quote unquote, can be misinterpreted, impulsive behavior. There's a lot of things that kids, like our kids, can do that tend to be kind of uniquely autistic, and not necessarily a sign of something underneath it from a psychiatric standpoint. So I'm kind of curious in terms of what the thinking was there.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because when he was at the ER at the hospital he was at, there was a lot of inaccurate information that was forwarded to the psychiatric hospital. And
Okay.
one of those things that they said was that he was aggressive. Well,
that's a red flag right there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that kind of sets the tone for who they're dealing with.
Well, think about it like this. All right. You're in a strange environment and they're trying to do a blood draw, and you've got 4 to 6 big security guys holding you down to do a blood draw.
Well, any kind of, exactly right. Anytime you're dealing with restraint, with most, I mean, again, it's neurotypical people. I mean, a lot of people are gonna respond to that.
And when we were in the ER, I mean, there was like all these people coming in there that were just up all hours of the night screaming, and it wasn't a good place for them at all.
No. I mean, for someone, I'm sure, again, we didn't talk about this, but I would imagine there's sensory issues, right? I mean, right. Like sensory input, he's probably very sensitive to. I mean, it's kind of the worst case, like one of the
it
worst
was the worst case scenario. Yeah. And I said, look, kid, that's totally inaccurate. He is not aggressive. He's not aggressive at all. He's one of the kindest people that you can meet. Because then when he went to the psychiatric hospital, that's exactly what I told him. I said, no, that is not accurate information at all. And so, and when he was in a psychiatric hospital, there was a point that, he was calling me every day, and I said, so right now your job is to be in the hospital right now. That's one thing that does help with Matthew and his brother Aiden. Is like I tell me they have jobs to do, and that helps them cope.
Right.
That's your job is to be in the hospital right now, and then we'll go from there, Matthew. Okay. So I'm talking to him 4 or 5. I'm talking to him every day for about 10, 15 minutes. Over the phone. That's great. And then all of a sudden, I'm not hearing from him. So I'm upset at this point. They're not considering that he might have some abandonment issues. Again, they're not considering these things. And so I got into pretty much a shouting match with his caseworker over this, because I say, well, why hasn't he called me in 5 days? What is going on? No one has updated me on anything. And so,
so you're totally in the dark for like 5 days?
I was totally in the dark about 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So part of that was over the weekend.
I'd be mad.
I mean, I understand part of it was over the weekend, but so last I heard from was Thursday, and then I didn't hear back from him at all. I had to call them on like that Tuesday or Wednesday and say, well, what's going on here? He hasn't called me or anything. You're dealing with someone and I told him you're dealing with someone who's autistic, who's got abandonment issues. He probably thinks I abandoned him and left him. You people are not seeing it like that.
Well, exactly. I was thinking about this as you're telling the story, Steve, in terms of these multiple incidents. And again, I'm just a dad. I'm not an expert, but it does seem to be the common thread there, right? Like in terms of the elopement tended to happen when you were gone, when you weren't there for him. There's an obvious attachment, which I'm sure is so special on one hand, right? Like there's the bond. I have no doubt that you have, because you
Yeah.
can't not have it, again, being in those shoes. But
Yeah.
it's, that may be one of those situations where he may be going through something that just, when dad's gone, that he just flips a switch as well, it sounds like.
Yeah. And so they kept me in the dark, and then, eventually it's like kind of like when he was in the hospital, it was like, okay, we'll keep him here, stabilize him, and give him back to his dad. And so that did happen. And then, I got the paperwork back. And the only thing that was on his paperwork as far as follow up is follow up with the psychiatrist. That was it. It was like, okay, you just kept him there, gave him a new regimen of meds. And,
Right.
I don't think there was that much help in that hospital, and,
It doesn't
that's really
sound like it.
unfortunate. And I know it's not just to the hospital he was at. I feel like that's probably a problem throughout the whole United States, when it comes to hospitalization amongst
Absolutely.
those with
Absolutely.
disabilities or special needs. I know some people don't like the word disability, so I'll use special needs. So
Yeah. I mean, I think people, again, people
yeah,
know. I mean,
yeah,
look, a lot of times you're dealing, they have disabilities,
yeah,
again, it's just how you define it.
yeah. So when he came home, I put multiple locks throughout every door in my house. Um, I stayed with him for 2 weeks, and so I took a leave of absence from my employer. Stayed with him, made sure everything was going smoothly, and then so I've been back to work now for about a week and a half, and there's been no attempts at elopement, and he hasn't asked for DVDs, Blu-rays, or video games, so he hasn't even asked about it.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, so hopefully we continue on this route.
And it sounds like, from your post, Steve, again, that you've been processing a lot, obviously, but you've also been spending a lot of time with him, talking to him. Yeah. Have you been trying to talk through this, in a way? Because one of the things that I think you had posted, again, that really struck me was, you're saying, like, healing doesn't begin the day someone is discharged, and so you've been dealing with the healing from the trauma of being hospitalized, to being in this foreign environment around different people, all of this. So now you're kind of dealing with this post-event trauma. How are you processing that, and how are you trying to work with that with Matthew?
Well, right now, probably the first few days were probably the hardest because all he wanted to do was sleep and sleep and sleep. And so I was really concerned at that point. He did manage to get himself out of that. And so he was, at that point, he kept on saying to me, "Is hospital all done?" And I said, "Yes, Matthew, the hospital is all done." He
Mm,
says, "No more hospital, no more
mm,
hospital."
yeah,
And so Matthew will internalize a lot of his emotions, but in his own way, it will come out.
sure. Yeah.
And so I'm just letting him kind of, bring it out at his own pace, what he's feeling and all that. As far as, healing, I've been just being there for him as much as I can. Um, Now his brother, he's actually, when Matthew went to the hospital, Aiden actually did remarkably well, better than I thought he would do. However, since Matthew's return, his anxiety has actually increased dramatically. And I feel it is due to he's afraid of another incident happening with his brother.
Sure.
Be-
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
he witnessed the one incident that was across the street from my house. He witnessed his brother going into the ambulance, and he thought the police were coming to take him away forever.
Right. Yeah, that's a natural fear to have,
Yeah.
right? In terms of, and it probably was very chaotic, and
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I keep on telling Aiden, the police are not there to take Matthew away. They were there to help him. And so that's helping him process his emotions as well.
And you said, this is one of the things that resonated because I said in our own case, Stone, who's visiting again. Hi, Stone. Okay. Um, has had to deal with his own traumatic incidents, and including obviously just in his case being non-speaking for nearly 16 years, and you can only imagine what that can do. But also he has epilepsy, and so he has seizures sometimes, which are scary as hell, as you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
So it was really interesting in our case, coming when he began to communicate, it opened up his world and so much. But you talked about internalizing feelings, internalizing trauma. And again, that really struck because we saw that with Stone. And so I realized how traumatized he was just in terms of how he wanted to be even closer to me. So, things, holding hands, just making sure it was like a minor elopement. I take our dog for a walk. I told you we wake up like uber early. We go for a walk. There's a time that he had left the house. It was like at the school where I take the dog for a walk, and this was like in the middle of winter, barefoot, and it really struck me just how traumatized he was, and just how he just kind of needed that, the comfort. I think a lot of this they're looking for comfort.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And that's something I've noticed with Matthew in his last couple of weeks, is that he's gotten very much attached to me, even more so prior to his hospitalization.
Yeah. I think that's understandable, right? In terms of if he had kind of, we call it abandonment issues, or the concern, that you're his rock, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're there for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's gone through a lot of changes in his life. And, I think that's what's probably the one that hit him the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it has.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can you talk about? Have there been like little victories or little signs that you're seeing that the healing is happening, or things that maybe other people wouldn't notice, given how close you are?
I would say one thing is he's returning a little bit to how he was. Like I just took him to see the new Spider-Man movie in a crowded movie theater. And and for
we saw that too. Very cool.
Yeah. So anyways, for the longest time I would have to take him into the sensory friendly showings. And so now this was actually the first time I took him into a crowded movie theater.
That's great.
Yeah, and so he did well. He was quiet, wasn't disturbing anybody, and and for those of you who haven't seen the new Spider-Man movie, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it's a long movie. It's about 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I kept going. I kept thinking like, okay, it's over now. Nope, it's not. There's still another.
Yeah. So he sat there for a whole 2.5 hours, and he was great. So that's a recent victory that we had with him.
That's a big one. And good on you, Steve, for taking him and not shying away from that kind of a challenge. Right. I mean, like you said, you didn't just wait. The sensory friendly opportunities are amazing. I'm so glad that we have those now. Like, again, that we've come that far as a society, but it's also nice if you don't have to, wait for that or hope for that, right? Like if you be in a situation like, hey, let's go see a movie. So that's good. I mean, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So he did very well with that. So that's the most recent victory we've had. The other victories I would say is we have not had any attempts of elopement since he was in the hospital.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hope that continues.
Yeah.
One of the things, again, that struck me, Steve, is you're carrying a lot, like this again falls on you. How are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing? Because it's an analogy, it's a cliche, but it's true, right? Like the whole airplane's going down. You got to put on an oxygen mask for yourself, and before you can take care of your kids.
Well, I got a couple things I do. One thing is I would like to get back into is running. I've ran since I was 9. I love to run. I've ran since I was 9 years old. I ran competitively in middle school and high school. And then I stopped, and then I went back into it about 6 years ago. This summer, I have not been able to run because of all the things that's been going on with Matthew. That's one thing I would like to get back into. Once things, if they do settle down, I will be getting back into writing again. Um, the other thing that I do
That's
is,
huge.
yeah,
I want to applaud that because I think that's huge. I think the physical, again, speaking
yeah,
from experience, I've been a runner for much of my life. I haven't been running as
yeah,
much the last year or two
hmm
because of injuries and other things. But that's so healthy and just so
it is.
cleansing, right? Like it's just such a mind cleanse when you get out
Yeah.
there.
Yep. And so that's one thing I might want to get back into. Maybe once I know things are more settled, that's my goal.
Yeah.
The one things I'm doing now is, like I said, my best friend, he lives right around the block from me. So I go over there whenever he's open and I'm open. I see him sometimes on Saturday evenings. That helps a lot when the boys are in bed.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing is that I do to take care of myself, which you are probably aware of, is my writing. That's
Oh
very
yeah. Yeah.
therapeutic for me.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're very prolific with your writing.
Mhm.
And again, I
Thank
know
you.
again, speaking from experience, it is. Yeah. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of good. It's kind of nice to document it, right? In terms of it gives you kind of milestones and things to look back on. But more than anything, and I see this from the comments from you're educating people, right? You're sharing what this experience is like and helping people understand because there are still so many misunderstandings, misperceptions of what the autistic world could look like.
Oh, definitely. And it's like this. I wrote something just recently about how some people still to this day think all autistic people are like them from the movie Rain Man.
Like Rain Man.
Still, yeah, still to this day. I wrote a piece about it the other day. Yeah, I wrote no yesterday. I wrote about it,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I saw that was great.
last year someone went up to me and said that. I'm like, oh, they're like Rain Man. Like, and I was not in a place where I could really express my opinion, so I had to walk away.
Right, right. Like, not quite.
Yeah, not quite. Yeah,
Not quite. I mean, it's that's
yeah.
everyone's different. I mean, it's just
Oh
and
yeah.
it truly is a spectrum and that's its own discussion too, right? People who want to argue over what qualifies, what counts as autism and what doesn't. But
Yeah.
the bottom line is it's just there are unique challenges that come with it. And
hmm
being a parent.
Yeah.
Kind of getting back, what has this experience? What has this taught you about yourself in terms of both, from kind of a big picture standpoint, Steve, being a dad is something
hmm
that turning the clock back 20 years ago, when you thought about being a dad, you probably did. This isn't probably what you imagined.
No, it wasn't. And I'm going to tell you right now, to put it in very simple terms, I'm a lot more resilient than I thought I was. A lot more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, say
Good.
hi.
Hi.
Here, let me
Hi, Stone.
get. There he
Hi,
is.
Stone. Yeah. He's great.
Hello. Yeah, he's a happy guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks
Yeah,
happy.
happy. Resilience is everything, Steve.
hmm
And yeah, I think we all kind of can relate to that.
For
Learning
sure.
that we're stronger than when we thought.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Happy, good.
happy, good. All right, he's gonna
All right.
disappear again. All right. Well, I mentioned before that we like to have some fun, kind of some fun segments that we want to include. And I'm gonna launch into these. Each one of these, Steve, we have jingles to kind of
Okay.
like, and so we're gonna start with autism tip of the week.
Hey parents, gather around, it's time to speak. We're here with your tip of the week. Strategies and wisdom just for you. Autism parents, we know what you go through.
All right, it's time for our autism tip of the week. And I know you didn't initially come into this episode with a tip of the week,
Mhm.
but I'm wondering if looking back now, Steve, if you kind of the experience that you had dealing with, a major incident or anything like that, is there maybe a piece of advice that you learned from this most recent episode that you want to share?
Yeah, it's just that I think what you need to do is surround yourself with a strong support system.
That's
And I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people, whether it's online or in my personal life, they have really came through during these past couple months, with these incidents I've had with my oldest son, Matthew. And they've came through in ways I didn't even imagine that would happen. So a great thank you to them. So
that's great.
I think that's what you ultimately need if you're an autism parent, a strong support system behind
You're so right. I mean, it's critical. It's
you.
absolutely critical. I can't imagine, like you said, trying to do it without having some level of support system, whether it's family and
Mhm.
friends in your case, it sounds like, which I'm so happy that you have. So
Yeah.
that's a great tip. So if you're out there, again, search for that. I mean, don't try to do this. Don't try to do this alone. It's, no one's Superman, no one's Superwoman
Yeah.
to be able to do it all alone. Okay, the next segment we're going to have is called Autism Fact or Fiction.
Get QuickTime ready, and here we go. This is Autism Fact or Fiction. We're breaking down what's real, what's rumor, and what might surprise you. Let's go.
All right, so this is again where we like to maybe kind of throw out a stereotype in a way. Maybe we already did that with the Rain Man analogy, but or talk about maybe something something that people may not know, autism fact that maybe people may not know. But again, if you have something, otherwise that's fine if you don't.
As far as a thing, that is that all autistics don't show emotion. That is not true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you want to elaborate on that a little bit in terms of so you see that perception still out there, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah, I did see it, yeah, and but not as much anymore. But I used to see it back early on when my kids were first diagnosed. But it's still out there. I can tell you from my own experiences, like my kids laugh, they make jokes,
Yeah.
that they show like if they're happy or if they're sad, they show a whole array of emotions just like you and I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, right, they're human first and,
Yeah.
autistic second. I mean, truly just a word we use to describe kind of this, the way their brains are wired a little differently and how it expresses itself differently too.
Yeah.
Like you say, yeah, they still have emotions. That's a great one. All right. The
Yeah.
next one, and again, this is one that this whole episode's been kind of like a parent confession, but we like to talk about things that we've learned that we can share with others that maybe either make us cringe a little bit, or again, maybe, makes us, in hindsight, we're like, God, I can't believe I did that. So we've got a little jingle for that as well.
Morning routines can go astray. Found socks in the fridge one day. Laughter's the best remedy. Hey, we're just finding our own way. Mom, dad, confessions every week. Sharing joys and moments we seek. Honest tales that make us unique. Join the club, we're never meek.
Yeah, and it is a club, right? Like we all
Yeah.
it's a parenting club, and then there's
Yeah.
the autism parenting club. It's we all have things that we look back at, like I said,
Yeah.
and just kind of say, what was I thinking?
Yeah. As far as like me, like I could, look back at things, like when my kids were first diagnosed and I didn't believe it. And it took me, and it took me a year to come to their diagnosis. I didn't come to terms with it. It took me a full year. And so back then I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't tell family. I didn't tell my closest friends.
Wow.
I didn't tell anybody. So I didn't come out until 2012 saying, hey, my kids have autism. Even my own mother didn't know.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. So I kept that as a bit.
That's a real level of denial.
I mean, I went into full-blown denial for a whole year, and I look where I'm at now compared to that.
Oh, I mean,
look,
two opposites. That's two opposites, right? Like going from full-blown denial to full-blown advocate. And before I forget, I want people, how can people find you in terms of find your writing? Do you do anything beyond your Facebook posts?
As of right now, I'm doing just a Facebook post right now. Eventually I'll probably do more, down the road, maybe hit other platforms, but the best place for right now is my Facebook, which is Stephen, Steven, and then my last name, Laine, Laine. It's like the car lane, but with the I in the middle.
With I in it. Yeah. So again, I encourage listeners to follow Steve or, friend him. I don't know, Steve, how what kind of filter you have in terms of friending people, but you can always follow people on Facebook and see what they're posting. Okay. The last quick segment we want to have, because we do want to add, I like to end things on a positive note. And that's one of the things, again, I appreciate about your writing and your posts is even as you keep them as real as they are, again, raw in certain cases, you always, I think, find a way to show some level of optimism, some kind of hope. And I think, in general, we all need hope in this world, this crazy, incredibly weird world right now, but particularly again with the complexities that autism parents face. So we'll go ahead and kick off what we call is the light of the week.
Light on the spectrum, a moment, person, or story, bringing something good. It feels hopeful, grounded, not performative. Use it for a person, a moment, a breakthrough, a story.
All right, so it's actually light on the spectrum. One of these weeks I'll get it right. I know my producer Dave is laughing behind the scenes. Okay, but Steve, what's a moment over the past few months that gave you hope, or has given you hope?
Well, what gave me hope is is like all the people that really came through for me, and that's been there for me. And and like I said, you see a lot of dark things, right now in the times we're living in. And so when I see all these people, come through, give me support, and, especially with the things that have been going on with my oldest son, Matthew, it's really putting my faith back into society. And the people I surround myself with are great people. And if we could do this, who knows what we could do down the road collectively as a whole within the autism community.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And it's a perfect note to end things on. So, Steve, I really do want to thank you across the board. Like I said, one of the things I really admire most is that, you don't try to present a perfect picture of autism or parenting. You simply share what's real. And I think that's why so many families are connecting to your writing. Your honesty helps people feel less alone. So thank you again for joining us today and everything you're doing for our community.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. I know we'll be in touch and communicating online. We're all in the club together.
Yes, we are.
Not something that we volunteered for, but once we're in, I think we recognize it's a very unique and special place to be in. So thank you again. And for all the listeners and viewers, thanks for joining us. Be sure to leave your reviews, comments, email me at david.kaufer@hey.com. And of course, you can read more of my work at Kaufer Insights on Substack. So until next week, we'll see you again on the lighter side of the spectrum.